We roughly 8 billion so-called modern humans are genetically very similar to our extinct and so-called sister groups, Neanderthals and Denisovans. The main difference between us existent modern humans and those extinct sister groups is that we existing modern humans have more genes knocked out through methylation than they have in areas by consensus considered facial and vocal related. Our high level of knocked out genes are located in areas by consensus considered facial and vocal related. First of all, the fact that we and other groups have knocked out genes is absolutely weird and totally counterintuitive, especially against any evolution hypothesis based on random mutations. Why would we or other groups or species have knocked out genes, especially so in facial and vocal related areas? This argues strongly against any evolution hypothesis based on random mutations. However, this same knocking out by methylation is not at all weird or counterintuitive in our hypothesis that modern humans are hybrids. In fact, it strongly argues in favor of us and our sister groups being hybrids. When we say hybrids, we mean so in the strict sense and not just in the sense of having interbred with these extinct sister groups. Regarding the by consensus supposed interbreeding between us modern humans and our supposed sister groups, there is no evidence and no confirmation at all by scientific markers of such supposed interbreeding. Further, this supposed interbreeding also presents numerous paradigms, a nice way of telling us it is not possible. And one of them is that there was not enough time to migrate into and populate the Americas. This never did happen because the most important ancestral and migrational marker prove us that the Americas populated the rest of the world. What these markers prove is inconvenient for consensus, and despite their obvious importance, they are generally neglected by consensus as if they do not even exist. Even more weird is the fact that exactly in modern humans who think they have additional or special facial and vocal extras, and that they are the so-called fittest, end up having most knocked out genes exactly in these facial and vocal areas. They very well can have in other not yet as such recognized areas. In other words, the main difference is not that we have additional genes or extras in the supposed cognitive related areas. Instead, and for consensus surprisingly, this tells us that from a gene standpoint we are even more disabled than Neanderthals and Denisovans were in these facial and vocal related areas. Unless we are cognitively inferior to Neanderthals and Denisovans, we very probably are not cognitively inferior in the way we value most, but there is no way to be sure. The parts we are more deprived of are this way proven to be not related to what we value most as cognitive superiority, but are possibly and probably related to spatial and sustainable thinking capacities instead. Capacities we modern humans today need less and value less when it comes to superiority. If we are indeed cognitively superior to Neanderthals and Denisovans, which most probably we are in our needs and understanding, then most probably our real superior cognitive related areas are located elsewhere and not recognized yet. If we also would be cognitively superior to the ancient Amazon Amerins, which most probably we are when we look at it in function of our needs and our understanding, then once again most probably our real superior cognitive related areas are located elsewhere and not recognized yet. But their needs were and probably still are quite different, the same for what they value as cognitive superiority. As pointed out, cognitive superiority is something very relative. To complicate things and to give it an additional dimension, Amazon Amerins have many individuals with university degrees and are more successful in things more attributed to non-Amerindians, this despite not enjoying the education and healthcare non-Amerindians enjoy. We suppose that quite many think of us as disrespectful to forest, life, and what is essential for life. So in a way, at least some will judge us as anything other than cognitive superior. Before we can recognize and confirm the real area or areas that locate cognitive superiority, this comparative research between modern humans and the Amazon Amerindians, our ancestors, has first to take place. It has not or is far from complete. Even before such comparative research, we have to be sure we study our most original ancestors, or rather the descendants of the original Amazon Amerindian that the important scientific markers indicate over and over. But as said, consensus science systematically neglects the most important scientific markers because they give results that are inconvenient because of undermining what consensus claims. To illustrate a bit better, at least certain parts of our rationale reasoning, we present an example with chimpanzees. In certain traditionally not used cognitive-related tests, chimpanzees are far superior and faster when compared to intelligent modern humans, their researchers. If these tests, which clearly have cognitive aspects, would be recognized as essential tests, then it would be proven that chimpanzees are far more intelligent than modern humans. Traditionally, these tests are not done amongst humans. In any case, the relativity of what is intelligent is illustrated. Important in our context, It is about exercises that are related to spatial cognitive capabilities that also are related to sustainability, survival in natural environments, roughly confirming that we modern humans are deliberately deprived from at least part of humans' original capacities. We hypothesize that we modern humans had these capabilities deprived by means of hybridization by our ancient genetic manipulators, which could have been ourselves, but more probably a closely related elite. Again, we are genetically identical to our supposed and extinct so-called Neanderthal and Denisovan sister groups, but we modern humans have more genes knocked out in areas by consensus supposed to be related to cognitive superiority. In other words, in areas by consensus supposed to be related to our supposed cognitive superiority, we differ more from and resemble less our non-modified original human ancestors, that scientific markers point out to be Amazon Amerindians, than Neanderthals and Denisovans do, although it possibly and probably provided us certain typical human physical traits. This is of course big, and a paradigm and inconvenient for consensus and consensus science at best. That could be one of the reasons that few people, even the ones that are on a constant lookout for science and paleontologic subjects, are not or little aware of this above essential paradigm. This raises further questions. A. Why were genes knocked out? B. What capabilities have, if they are not extinct, or had, if they are extinct, our ancestors, and who and what were they and what made them prosper and thrive enough for them to populate the world? Just for clarity, Denisovans, Neanderthals, nor Homo erectus are not our ancestors. As a provisory answer, we will work with scientific markers, as all should do, and they point to the ancient Amazon Amerins as our ancestors. Seen the conditions and locality, their capabilities were more ample, specifically in spatial and sustainable thinking. Ancient Amazon Amerins saw and still see themselves A. as their own ancestors, not as coming from Asia, Oceania, or Africa. B. as being elements of the circle of life, together with trees, plants, and animals. C. less as the fittest of all or some kind of apex like we modern humans do. The Amazon Amerindians having no or less genes knocked out could be part of the reason that they and at least groups of descendants still have superior heart and brain health and almost complete absence of Alzheimer and degenerative diseases. Just to clarify, with the health status we modern humans have now, we would not be able to populate the whole world by means of population turnover events that have been proven the case by ancient DNA. In dedicated videos and/or podcasts we provide evidence, relevant scientific proof, that the Amerindians are our ancestors, as well as out of Americas, simply because the most important and clear scientifical relevant markers tell us so over and over. These scientific markers amongst others include haplotypes, haplogroups, blood groups, and jumping genes, transposons, transposable elements, or TES. Apart from a very limited number of haplogroups, the general public and even scientists seem not to be aware or seem to avoid using the large list of scientific dedicated markers, probably because of complexity or because the results are known to be inconvenient for consensus and interests, and obviously their use is not promoted and their absence is not questioned. Our arguments in this video do not involve complex markers and are quite straightforward and clear. Even the till today touted proof of out of Africa by means of mtDNA-L has recently turned out to be a proof against the hypothesis of African Eve, out of Africa. This because recently it was found out that the supposed African Eve mtDNA-L was carried already long before by Neanderthal and was present in their DNA. What was supposed to prove African Eve, mitochondrial Eve, and out of Africa turned out to prove that African Eve, mitochondrial Eve, and out of Africa are descendants from earlier humans, similar to modern humans. And this also is yet another argument for hybridization and a consequent population turnover event of the mid-period Neanderthal and of the human ancestor of African Eve, because the Neanderthal was not significantly present in sub-Saharan Africa. That Neanderthal DNA with mtNA-L as well as the ancestor modern human with mtNA-L itself was present in the Americas, but not in the Amazon forest, in pre-Columbian and prehistoric times, and still is present today, and both Neanderthal and mtDNA-L originated in the Americas. mtNA-L is in fact a scientific proof for out of Americas and a proof of hybridization sensu stricto, of indirect genetic manipulation or domestication, of us modern humans or at least our ancestors and or hybrid sister groups. Regarding the Amerindians, they clearly present the above-mentioned differences between modern humans and our Amazon Amerindian ancestor, even in their actual cultures, lifestyle, but also in myths, their prehistoric art and artifacts. Where there is plenty of clear evidence that points in this direction, they strongly identify with forest and forest animals. Please keep in mind our videos, that are based on NASA research, about the Amazon forest, and other tropical forests, being a relic of ancient human-made food forests capable of warding off half of all global carbon dioxide emissions, directly, CDR, and indirectly, by massive feeding of plankton in at least the Atlantic Ocean. With the scientific evidence, especially NASA research, clearly pointing out that the Amazon forest, even when partly destroyed, still plays the main role in global carbon dioxide absorption, sequestering and distribution apart from its general climate regulation. The next questions are: why were genes knocked out? By whom? How and when? We claim and have plenty of arguments that genes were knocked out thousands of years ago to induce and facilitate us humans to abandon the original sustainable and respectful lifestyle, based on agroforests, a kind of new age, described above, this to facilitate acceptance and integration in a wider and quite unsustainable culture and lifestyle, based on tilling agriculture, that consequently will become the lifestyle of all modern humans, and that till today cause and aggravate all kinds of climate and other challenges. We claim that genes were proposedly knocked out in a clever indirect, probably not invasive way of genetic manipulation by a powerful warfare, mining, conquest-oriented elite group, also involving religious tactics and proto-religions, that induced those that they suppressed and conquered to think of them as superior or even divine, their creators. These elites were keen on procreation of the groups with the knocked-out genes, to have manpower for labor, warfare, mining, and/or planned population turnover events. In a way these, we modern humans, are the alternative for robots and drones. In the most ancient artifacts etc. spread over the globe, this elite in cases are depicted as Viracocha, Tiki, Make, and/or white people, elite, gods that are beneficial but also or above all should be feared. Later on, this initial rather global religion imperium is replaced by a series of religions, including in the West important Bible-oriented regions. Hybrids and elites, their creators, minority, will cause massive navigation with fleets of the ocean currents and gyres and consequential population turnover events, with at least one important event around 12,000 BP, extinction of megafauna and of Clovis in the Americas and Clovis-likes in Western Eurasia, and the latest event around 5,000 BP. YHP R1A Yamner etc. and later R1B with Stonehenge and Karnak and most of the Atlantic facade with corded ware culture and Bell Beaker culture. Both are confirmed by extensive ancient DNA evidence and again quite inconvenient for consensus and not readily accepted, spread and generally known of. The elites themselves also were specialized, hybrids and had or evolved having white or with a skin, later, in the Austronesian expansion, also dark skin. The initially existing coherence between the subsequent groups of hybrids will eventually and later be lost, and they will fight and conquer each other systematically, this in combination with genetic, population turnovers, irreversible climate disruption and consequent challenges and calamities by forest destruction and a massive and unsustainable tilling agriculture, but also intense mixturing, interbreeding. The Oracle of Delphi in Greece, operating for hundreds of years until under 2,000 years ago, was situated in a forested area with plenty of wells and today turned arid without good potential for fertile forests and without wells. This well-described place is typical for the Mediterranean, Middle East and important parts of the world. The result is us 8 billion modern humans in a world that suffered climate and soil degradation already thousands of years ago. The so-called Green Revolution gives us a false sense of security. Without an ever-increasing input of fertilizers amongst others, our climate would be more arid and soils would be less productive than they ever were, at least since the onset of the Holocene after the Younger Dryas. What we should take away is that we were genetically modified and that apart from apparent cognitive improvements and adaptations we also suffered disabling, not necessarily of, or rather not of for the situation, unsustainable overturn and agriculture lifestyles and no longer sustainable agroforest lifestyles, needed and validated cognitive functions. If in the tests where chimpanzees were proven to be much more intelligent and faster than we humans, the Amazon amarins also turn out to be more intelligent and faster, this could indicate that in the for human cognitive functions supposed important facial and vocal areas they are, also, less disabled than we modern humans are and even as our extinct sister groups were. If this would be the result, and if that result was confirmed by comparison of methylation in that same area, then that would be yet another indication or proof, and a paradigm for consensus, that A. We modern humans are genetically modified and deprived of certain capabilities related to intelligence or cognitive capabilities that are less validated by us modern humans since the Younger Dryas and today. B. It also would prove we modern humans are descendants of the Amazon amarins and not the other way around. C. Amazon amarins, chimpanzees, taxi drivers depending on spatial capabilities are less prone to Alzheimer's, dementia, and degenerative diseases in general. This could mean that our disabling hybridization not only costed us certain cognitive capabilities, but also deprives us from heart and brain health, and made and still make us more prone to degenerative diseases and epidemics, and increases genome instability, which makes more prone to new diseases, like autism. This is in line with recent studies, 2022 Nobel Prize Drive Parbo and his colleagues, that associate Neanderthal DNA and modern humans with a fraction of Neanderthal DNA with certain diseases and epidemics. The latter point, C, is not a full proof, but rather an interesting association, possibly with very high probability, which can make it equivalent to a proof or prevent or compensate for any paradigms. Also interesting is that Amazon amarins are recognized for the creation hybridization of some of the most important food crops today. 60% of the world is fed by them. Modern humans as well as crops are marked by jumping genes. We consider jumping genes as markers of hybridization and not as some random mutation that were helpful in a domestication, crossing and selection process. It is obvious that once the Amerindians lost the knowledge to hybridize with hybridization based on jumping genes, plants, animals, and humans, these jumping genes never occurred again, and modern science is unable to create new crops as the Amerindians did many thousand years ago. We will never be able to pinpoint our ancestor and recognize the way they thrived by some simple mtDNA deduction or a simple larger brain deduction. We will have to do way better than what we actually do, in order to solve our increasing number of challenges and perfect storms and to understand essentials for life and existence.